Hey everybody, Shawn Holsinger here from HolsingersFlyShop.com. If you're new to the channel, that's great. Welcome, and I'm glad you're here. If not, if you've been around for a long time and been following my channel, I've been out here for a long time now. It's been 10 years. I'm somewhere around like 470 videos now as I put this one out. And I've gotten a lot better at tying, at editing my videos and everything, In those 10 years, I've tied tens of thousands of flies, and the quality of my tying has improved. And, all my software that I use to edit it and film all my videos has improved too. So I'm going back every now and then. I'm going to go back to some of my first videos and reshoot them and bring you out a better quality video of it. And that's what today's fly is going to be. I'm going to tie a standard old Prince Nymph, a beadhead Prince Nymph. But using some techniques that, if you're a beginner, this is the fly for you. You're going to learn some techniques that you're going to use in many other flies, and that's what's important. Whenever I get into fly tying and I teach tying, what I stress is technique over pattern. So I want you to learn how to do the steps to tie the fly rather than learn how to tie the specific fly. What that means is I want to teach you how to wrap hackle, or I want to teach you how to wrap the body on rather than how to do the entire fly. I want you to learn the individual steps it takes to tie the fly, because they're going to go into other patterns. And once you learn all these techniques, you can bottleneck them all down and make some cool looking flies. If you learn the techniques, technique over pattern any day is my teaching technique. So anyway, guys, here you're going to see a picture of the Prince Nymph and then the material list to tie it. Alright, here you see an old school style beadhead Prince Nymph. Not real hard to tie, that's why it's in the beginner series, so let's get into tying it. For a hook, I'm using a Daiichi 1516. This is a wet nymph hook style hook, and of course feel free to crush the barb on that. For the bead, I'm using, on this size 12 hook, I'm using a 2.8 millimeter copper tungsten bead. For lead, I got about 15 wraps of about 10 wraps, 10 or 12 of 0.015 lead. Now for thread on this, if you want to go the old school one, traditional, you could use red thread, or you can use black thread here, and black or brown, either one. I'm going to use some fluorescent pink. It's just going to create a little bit of hot spot on the fly, which I like, so use black or brown if you want to, and then you can always put a red color to finish, or just use pink like I'm doing. It doesn't really matter. Fish aren't going to care. So what I'm going to do is display my tail. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to make a little damn ball of thread. Oh, this is 70 Denier, by the way, I'm using. And I'm just going to make, you see a little hump there, and that's going to splay my Biot tails out, which I'm putting on next. For the tails, I'm using some golden stone Goose Biots. You could use brown or black, either one here. Brown is traditional, golden stone is a brown color, and that's what I have on hand, so that's what I'm using. I don't care what tradition says. If it catches fish, it doesn't matter. Use what you have handy. And so I'm going to put one on one side. You can see I wrapped that right down the side, and now I'm going to put one on the other side. And I want the points to be the same length, so I'm just going to adjust them around there till I get them where I want them. And then make a couple wraps, tie it down. Now you can see I got the same length. Now I'm going to wrap back to that bend. And when I get back to that ball, you'll see it'll push those tails out and they'll splay real nice and even there. So that's how I get my tails to split on these. It's a simple way of doing it. And then I'm just going to put like one layer of thread on there. Next thing I'm going to put on is a piece of Brassie sized gold UTC ultra wire, and I'm going to put that on the side and wrap that down. Traditionally it calls for French oval tinsel. French oval tinsel can be a slight bit of a pain to work with, not bad, but I like the the Brassie gold wire better. And then the next thing we're going to put on is some Peacock Herl. And I'm going to take about 3 strands of it. And I'm going to wrap them in by the tips, not by the butt sections, but by the tips, and wrap it back to that tail. And once I get back to the tail, I'm going to wrap it back up to the head. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either bring your thread back here, and you can wrap the herl around your thread. Make a 5 or 6 wraps. I always wrap it over the thread and under, not under, over, but I start out when it's facing me like it is here, I go over and under, so it would be clockwise, and as you wrap it on away from you, then it wraps on the correct way, and it'll actually keep wrapping as you wrap it forward. But for me, I'm going to wrap it without wrapping around the thread, and it makes it a little bit cleaner. The other way, if you wrap it around the thread, it makes it a little bit stronger. But if you don't go around the thread, you can see here, it's a nice clean wrap. Now, if you do it this way, you have to make sure that you counter wrap your wire. So I'm going to wrap it right in behind the bead and cut it off. Now, since I wrapped away from me towards the camera with my herl, I'm going to wrap towards me. I'm going to wrap the opposite way I wrapped the herl with my gold wire, and that will lock that all in place. It won't get tore up by the fish's mouth. Just make nice even spaced wraps, go right up there behind the bead and wrap that off. So, like I said, if you're not going to use your thread to wrap it down, you want to make sure you counter rib this to lock that herl in place so it doesn't get beat up. Now, next thing we're going to do is put on a piece of hackle. This is some brown hen hackle, just some cheap brown hen hackle. And you can see here the furry section at the back. I'm going to strip all that off. And that's going to allow me to get my hackle plier on the back section. Then I'm going to flip it around and grab it by the tips. I'm going to strip back and leave just the tip section setting out like that. And that's what I'm going to tie it down. I'm going to tie it down by my tips and make 3 or 4 wraps there. Now you can push them tips back. That will lock it in place a little bit better. Then I'm going to cut the tips off. Then I'm going to put my hackle pliers on, and I'm going to wrap this forward 2 or 3 wraps. As I'm doing that, I'm making sure I strip these fibers backwards so it rolls the right way and doesn't get all wonky on me. I want my hackle fibers to go backwards. And once I get about 2 wraps on there, I'm going to wrap that off. Oops. There we go. And then I'll cut that feather shaft off. And I'm just going to make sure I have all of my feathers pointing backwards, not creating too much of a head there, a collar. That's why I'm using the 70 denier. It's going to keep the collar size down. Last thing I want to do is add 2 more biots, and these are white. I'm going to use 2 more white goose biots, and I'm going to lay these on the top. So if I turn this over, they're going to lay right across the top, and I want them to go about half of the way back the fly there, you can see. So I'm going to pinch them down on top, make 2 or 3 loose wraps, and then tighter wraps as I go to secure them where I want. And then cut them off. Make 1 or 2 wraps to clean everything up, and then we're going to whip finish. And you see by using that 70 denier, I can keep the collar from overpowering this thing. Whoops. There, I broke it off. 2 things you can do when I accidentally broke my thread off. I don't have a very good heavy wrap there. So one thing I could do, I could wrap a couple more wraps, or I could just hit it with some head cement. And I'm just going to hit it with some head cement, because if I get like a 2-knot whip finish on there, I don't bother with head cement. But if I don't get a good knot that I'm happy with, then I'll go with the head cement. So there, I'm using some Solarez Bone Dry for head cement on there. And there you go. That is a very simple old classic pattern. Easy to tie, and one that you should tie just to learn the techniques of tying it. All right, I hope you like that pattern. Old classic pattern. My twist on it, how I like to tie it, like I said in there. I don't tie it the traditional way. I don't use the French oval tinsel because I can use it. It's not a problem to use. It just sometimes doesn't always look the best or fights it a little bit wrapping. So I use the gold wire. That gold wire shines through just as well, and it holds that herl in place. Uh, I went for a pink hot spot rather than a red one. You don't need a hot spot. You know, have fun tying. Experiment with what you like to do and learn the techniques. That's what's important, that you learn the techniques. So guys, as always, if you need any of the material to tie this fly, please head over to our website at holsingersflyshop.com. We'd be more than happy to help you out there. And like I said, it's been 10 years I've been at this, and I can't thank you enough for all the support. And I love seeing you guys at the show and coming up and talk to me at the shows. So show season's about over for me. Last one this weekend down in Maryland. So if you're in the Maryland, Towson, Maryland area, stop out and see me at the Maryland Fly Fishing and Collectibles Show. If not, I'll catch you next season on the show circuit. But until then, guys, thanks for watching my videos. I'm Shawn Holsinger.